Welcome to the October 2020 FileMaker Pro Users Group. I'm Steve Sikora, President of Harmonic, and I'm pleased to be your host today. On our panel today, I am joined with Robert Sandifer and Heather McHugh. Robert and Heather are both lead FileMaker developers here with Harmonic and have been eagerly exploring FileMaker add-ons since their announcement. And Fred, you have to show the slide.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. My bad. There we go.
There we go. Our better selves.
Hold that mic up closer, too.
We'd love for you to participate in the conversation today. We're using YouTube Live. You will want to use top chat mode, and you can enter your question or comment in this window here. Please make sure that your name is showing up properly so that all participants know who's talking. And to the folks on my team participating in the lounge, make sure to add your name to the question or comment. Finally, we have Paul Mitchell in the room with us, senior developer here at Harmonic, and he is going to be interacting with the chat, bringing those comments to the panel, etc. So we're going to start today with Robert is going to give us a quick demo of what an add-on is, show us how they work. I'm going to be discussing how Claras is positioning add-ons. Heather is going to show us what add-ons are currently available to us. She'll be doing some live demos using those add-ons. Now, there are several add-ons out there right now, and if you have an add-on that you're particularly interested in seeing us dig into, put that in the chat, and we'll see if we can take a look at it live. Paul has a list of those he's going to drop into the chat right now, and so you can look through that list. If you see something of interest, make sure to call that out. And then lastly, as a panel, we're going to discuss what can we do with add-ons? How can we make use of them? Now, that's not really all there is to talk about add-ons, and so as a final step, next week at 11 o'clock, we're going to have a public brain trust here at Harmonic. It'll be a virtual one, just like this event, but we're going to be discussing how do you make an add-on? What do you do with it? What are some best practices? Things of that nature. Now, Fred has a link ready to go for us. And hey, if you just subscribe to our channel and click that bell, you'll be notified directly when that happens. Now, to get going, Robert is going to talk to us about what is an add-on.
So an add-on is basically a collection of FileMaker Pro objects that, when added to a FileMaker Pro database, extend its functionality. So let me switch to the video. All right. So to demonstrate what an add-on is, I'm going to start with a blank, empty file. I really don't want something that is as complicated as a starter solution, and I really don't want to start from scratch either, but that's what I'm going to do. Add-ons can be added at different levels of the file. They can be added directly to the layout, or they can just be added to the file itself. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add the people add-on to my file. And there we have it. Now, I'm happy with the simplicity of what I've started with here, but I feel like I'm falling short a little bit. What I'm not happy with is the fact that there is only one phone number and only one email And there are no notes. I want multiple phone numbers, multiple emails, and multiple notes. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm not going to go overboard on layout cleanliness or usability. I just simply want to demonstrate how quickly and easy it is to use the FileMaker add-on. Give myself a little extra space here on my layout.
Fred, we lost the screen.
Ah,
I'm going to hit pause. Thank you.
is he back?
Yes. All right, Robert. I'm going to back you up right here
All right.
and play again. Okay, so you had added some tabs.
Added some tabs here, making a little space. So I'm going to go and I'm going to grab the phone numbers, the phone numbers table add-on, the email table add-on, and the notes. Just going to drag them right out onto the screen. So then in browse mode, you see here that I have a full-blown email and telephone portal. That quick, that easy. They're styled, schema attached, and ready to use. And there are my notes. Obviously, these are easy to edit. You can customize them, restyle them, whatever you need to do. If we take a look at the schema, I can see all my new table occurrences are all just piled on top of each other here. But what I can also see is that they are all attached to the primary key of my people table. These are just a couple of examples of the table add-ons. JavaScript add-ons are a little bit of a different animal. They are still FileMaker add-ons just the same, but the user interfacing elements of the add-on are different. The JavaScript add-ons take advantage of several new FileMaker 19 features that allow us to use elaborate JavaScript interfaces in FileMaker with almost instant integration. So far, the JavaScript add-ons do not dynamically attach themselves to the schema objects. They stand alone and typically need setup to complete the integration. For this demo, I'm not going to directly integrate this add-on, but as you can see, what I've dropped in here is functional on its own. There we have that.
Thanks, Robert. That is impressive stuff. You are, yep, just trying to get my cursor back. Where is it?
There, I saw it. There, I saw it.
Yeah, which is the TV to the right of this or the left of it?
I think it's to the left of it.
There we go. All right, found the cursor. So what you're saying is add-ons are kind of like the Mr. Potato Head of FileMaker, is that right?
Yeah, just about, yes. You can just pick your pieces and stick them where you need them.
All right, I love it. Okay, so, oh, sorry about that, Heather. I'd like to spend a few minutes discussing Claras' positioning of add-ons, how they fit within their broader market initiatives, within their development framework, and what opportunities they represent for us as developers and content creators. I think the story starts back a little bit, though, so I'm going to back up just a step or two. And I think the story starts with what is FileMaker now that FileMaker is Claras. What I'm talking about is that Claras International is the renamed version of the entity previously known as FileMaker Inc. It is still a wholly owned subsidiary of Apple. Many have noted that with Claras, the Apple association has been muted. Now, in my opinion, this is Claras working to carve out its own space beyond the bounds of what strictly fits within Apple's culture and business model. Nonetheless, I think Claras continues to be both influenced by and strongly aligned with key Apple initiatives and technologies. I personally believe that we're going to see more of this coming to fruition in the next year. Now, Claras has stated that FileMaker remains its flagship product. With the addition of Claras Connect, previously Stamplay, Claras is now a multi-platform company, but FileMaker unequivocally remains Claras' bread and butter, and I think that's going to be the case for some time to come. FileMaker 19 was released earlier this year on May 20th. And I think it's useful to think of FileMaker 19 as the transition version of FileMaker, of the FileMaker product line within the larger Claras roadmap. The FileMaker 18 family was kind of set in stone by the time the Claras transition was started last year. And many of the features delivered in FileMaker 19 were well into development by the time the Claras brand and vision were announced by its new CEO, Brad Freitag, last summer at FileMaker DevCon. All that said, I think there's a number of features and directions that show us the path forward with the FileMaker 19 release. To talk about those, I want to point out what Claras said in their marketing when they released FileMaker 19 back on May 20th. Talking about their platform, of course, FileMaker had the year before brought out the concept of a workforce innovation platform as its kind of corner of the market. So as Claras inherited that, talking about their platform, they said, the Claras platform helps you create apps that make your business better. Rapidly build apps you can't find anywhere with advanced tech like cloud, mobile, and AI. Then connect them together with your other apps to automate workflow. And they added a nice tagline, get help from the Claras community or a Claras partner near you. That's us, of course, on this meeting. That's the call out to the community. And I think that pattern's going to show up again in a second. About FileMaker 19 specifically, right, the FileMaker portion of the Claras platform. Claras said, Claras FileMaker 19, the first open platform, allows you to extend the platform with shareable add-ons, making it faster for anyone to build modern apps. Use add-ons for AI-powered image classification, photo galleries, Kanban boards, and more. Plus, create directly in FileMaker Cloud or deploy on FileMaker Server for Linux. Again, this was what they said back May 20th when they rolled out FileMaker 19. I would observe that exactly none of the features described here were available on day one. The closest is the Linux FileMaker Server, which was available as a don't call us if it breaks developer preview. So, the title of my slide here talks about it, right? Claras is moving to an agile model. And I think FileMaker 19 is kind of our first trial by fire into that world. So it was released on May 20th, 2020, like we said. At the time, Claras indicated within partner channels that this was the last full version release, right? The last kind of full year release. Going forward, they're moving to Agile quarterly releases. Of course, FileMaker 19 was released during COVID-19. No coincidence there, I'm sure. But I would note that that was 4 months ago, not 3. So maybe Claras has also invented a new 16-month fiscal year. I'm waiting to find out more details on that. Now, of the features called out by Claras Marketing, the first one, open. That's kind of their generic nondescript market speak that's really talking, I think, about embracing JavaScript interoperability within our venerable object, the web portal, right? We love the web portal. And I don't want to undersell this. We're really excited about it here at Harmonic. Both the JavaScript calls that you can make directly back into FileMaker, as well as the execute data API. I think they have a lot of potential, very exciting stuff. But when they shipped on May 20th, they were kind of lacking the most logical use, and that is the JavaScript add-ons. At the time, they did release add-ons, but they were developer preview only, and I would note that we couldn't create add-ons in that version. The JavaScript add-ons were described as coming soon. They had been in the ETS version, in the betas, but they were taken out of the version that shipped. Linux server, as I stated, developer preview. We had some interesting times trying to get that to work for us. Finally got it functional in certain respects, but not fully baked, but out there for us to play with it. And then creating cloud function, shown at Engage and so forth, but it was vaporware when it shipped, even though it was in the marketing. Well, fast forward to this past Tuesday. And we've got FileMaker 19.1.2, right? So in the Agile terms, sprint number 1 complete. So now that 19.1.2 is shipped, it really makes good on most of the marketing promises from May. We've got the add-ons out of developer preview, including we can make our own now. Those JavaScript add-ons are alive. They have their own marketplace homepage, and some partners have already started populating their add-ons in there. Claras is also providing a preview of that Create in Cloud. No, it's not Create in Cloud yet, but it is a quick start that is available on the Mac version of FileMaker Pro. There's a few caveats. You cannot have FileMaker Server installed, and you have to turn off the advanced tools in order for it to work. But it's in there, and obviously they want us to play with it and try it. And I think it's we shouldn't underestimate the effort and the intent here, because I think it's really a perfect example of what Claras is trying to do. They're working to empower the problem solver, right? That's their buzzword, and they've got this other buzzword, zero to cloud, right? So they're really working very hard to make it increasingly simple to start with almost nothing, just like Robert was showing us a second ago with the add-ons. Start with virtually no knowledge, no experience, no time, and very quickly ramp up to a sophisticated solution and have it being hosted from the cloud. And that's really, even though some of how they're doing it is very kind of simple and straightforward and limited to start, those are really powerful concepts. And I'm excited about the energy that they're putting behind that. I think that's going to play an increasingly large part of the story going forward. Finally, and take this tongue-in-cheek, but perhaps most importantly, the Apex Blue theme has arrived. Now, this theme, and there's a little inside baseball going on here with the thing we've got going on with Claras right now. This theme is going to be Claras' new starter app marketing theme. It ties in with their branding. Note that the color in the FileMaker Pro logo is blue, right? So that's where the blue comes from. So if you want to know what Claras thinks a modern app looks like, just use Apex Blue. All right. Lastly, I want to make a few observations here. I already called it out, but Agile releases are the new normal, right? Not just bug fixes. We can expect these kind of regular, quarterly, maybe third year, whatever you'd call that, triannually, I guess, major feature releases, right? And I think the process really has become clear how they're going to do that, right? I've identified it here as propose, promise, preview, release, right? I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to propose the feature at an engaged session, in a blog post, in a NDA meeting with partners, et cetera. They're going to propose it, then they're going to promise it, right? They're going to put it on a roadmap internally. Hopefully they'll continue to communicate those things to us as partners. Then they're going to preview it. They're going to preview it first in an ETS build. And again, I would encourage anyone who's interested in kind of keeping up with their increasing pace. I think ETS is more important than it used to be for that reason alone, right? Getting to play with this stuff at least a couple months before they do the next thing, and that is preview it, right? They throw it out in the wild to the developers as a developer beta, which is the sort of don't call us, but let us know if there's something wrong, but don't call us with the problem. And then they finally release it, right? And I think they're going to release it in these quarterly or triannual builds, these semi-frequent builds. The next thing that I think they're doing, the next observation that I would make, is they're really working hard to leverage the community. This makes perfect sense. I think Claras wants to stretch their resources as far as they can. Certainly they're a large company if we're comparing Claras to, say, Harmonic, or really any Claras partner for that matter, but they're not a large company in the world of software development firms and cloud engaged, cloud leveraged software development firms. They're modestly sized, and so I think they've got to be careful about what do they try to do themselves and what do they enable and leverage. And I think the add-ons, the JavaScript add-ons, the regular add-ons, they're a perfect example of that. The JavaScript add-ons specifically were all primarily developed by a Claras partner. Claras Engineering, of course, worked with them, but one of the Claras partners did most of the work there, right? Claras didn't do it themselves. So previously, I think this gives us kind of a new opportunity, because previously, if you were developing something that you were going to try to sell as a product, as a partner, you had one of two choices. You could either develop and sell a tool, or you could develop a full app for a vertical market. One or the other. You couldn't really do something in between. And honestly, for an entity like Harmonic, that's largely left us out in the cold. Neither one of those really fit our business model very well. So now we can do something different, right? We can build a component that can cut across those disciplines. And I think there's some interesting opportunities there. Lastly, both figuratively and literally, that brings us to the marketplace, right? How do we monetize this stuff? How do we sell it? And I think the Claras marketplace, right? It was the FileMaker marketplace. Now they've rebranded it to the Claras marketplace. This is how we as FileMaker developers get to participate in the App Store economy, right? This is our opportunity to build a widget, sell it for $1, sell it for $10, have it be a component, have it be an add-on to someone else's system, not the whole enchilada, right? Where it either works for you or it doesn't. So I'm excited to see how we can embrace those many opportunities. That's part of what we're going to be talking about next week. The purpose of a brain trust here at Harmonic is to have a discussion, right? We're going to have a little bit of prepared content showing how to create add-ons and what some of the pitfalls and things that we've learned so far. Of course, we're at the very front of it. We're going to have a little prepared content at the beginning, but mostly it's going to be a discussion. It's going to be a discussion about what can we do with it, where should we go with it, what opportunities are out there, what do we want, how do we use it internally, how do we use it commercially. So those are my thoughts on add-ons right now and kind of how they fit within the FileMaker and Claras landscape. To keep going with this, Heather is now going to talk to us about what add-ons are available today. Of course, this is just the start, but there's some interesting stuff out there. Heather.
All right, thank you, Steve. There's so many exciting things for us to look forward to as developers. I can tell you more after I put my glasses on here. There's so much for us to look forward to as developers. But for the next few moments, I'm going to focus on the now, as in what's available for us to play with today. So I first want to remind you of the default add-ons that are included with FileMaker 19.1.2. There are the table-based add-ons that most of you are familiar with already: action items, addresses, attachments, companies, email addresses, general info, inventory transactions, notes, people, phone numbers, and topics. Plus the new JavaScript add-ons, which include activity timeline, barcode generator, calendar, calendar heat map, Kanban or Kanban, depending on your preference, photo gallery, rich text editor, simple chart, and timer. And as Steve mentioned earlier, if there are any of these that you would like to see demonstrated and installed later on in our session, we'd be happy to do that. Just add a comment and put in your vote for your preference.
Hey, am I missing the AI-powered image classification add-on somewhere?
No.
I don't
see
see
that.
I think there's maybe one thing that was promised back in May that hasn't come to fruition yet.
It's not there right
Maybe,
now.
maybe the image classification.
Maybe
is,
1.3, 19.3,
that's
or
gonna
it'll
be
be
the next
available,
release.
or it'll be available in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Right. Also, currently available from the FileMaker Marketplace, which is very easy to find. Though I will tell you, when you go to the FileMaker Marketplace, if you just scroll through everything that's there, you're not going to find much in add-ons. But if you scroll more to the bottom of your screen, click the filter for add-ons specifically, and you'll get everything that's available, much easier and quicker to see. So the next item that is available on the FileMaker Marketplace is the DayBack Calendar by Seed Code. Many of you are familiar with that already, but now it's available as an add-on, and you can get that from Seed Code or directly from the FileMaker Marketplace. We also have eSignature by Logic has been created as and offered as an add-on, and Fast Date Input by One More Thing, which, if you look closely there, you can see it basically allows you to type in your date any way you want, and it'll convert it properly. I really like the ones at the bottom, // +2 to give you the day after tomorrow, and // -7 to give you last week. I thought of most of the others, but not that one. So that's kind of cool, and that's available as an add-on. And not yet available on the marketplace, but currently available and downloaded directly from AppWorks is FMLog 2.1. Which I found when we were first looking around for information on how to create add-ons and do fun things like that, which Steve mentioned we'll talk about more next week. So next, I'm going to actually show you a quick demo. I seem to be going backwards here. I'm sorry, I'm clicking the wrong buttons. Duh. Okay, quick demo. All right, let's try that again. All right.
I'm going to switch to mirror, maybe.
Maybe
So you're not-
just to get that one cleaner.
Easier, I think. Let's do one more change here. Hold on.
Ah, it's just the other tab in there.
Yeah,
On
what
the-
I want to do is we're going to mirror this one so that our old eyes have
Oh,
fighting
thank
chance.
you.
This is
Thank
the joys
you.
of modern technology.
For those of you who've been here to Harmonic in the Treehouse, we have an incredibly large screen, and well, when that resolution is then mirrored back to my little laptop here, it just is impossible to see. All right, so here we go. All right, so basically, I'm starting like Robert did with a basic empty file. I'm leaving the default table that it created, but I have no scripts. I have only one layout. I have no value lists. I have no custom functions. So we're starting from scratch. I'm going to go into layout mode. I'm going to select the add-on panel, and I'm going to see all the available add-ons that I have. Of course, you see the defaults there, but I'm going to select virtual sort. Some of you are familiar with the virtual sort technique, which is all FileMaker native and consists of a variety of scripts and things like that. And there's also, oh, looks like we've skipped to nav buttons. All right, so nav buttons is a little widget that I added. Let me pause here for just a second because I'm out of order. All right, so the nav button add-on adds this nav button widget that you see and for our common navigation, first, previous, next, last. And that round button in the middle allows us to do other things. We hold our option key down, it'll omit records, or shift option, it will show the omitted and toggle back and forth, or just click it directly and show all. So that's all there in my add-on. I didn't have to do anything but drag it on. It added a little table for it. Real simple. And it added one script and a couple of layouts. Added a couple custom functions for my option and shift key. And one nav script. And it's all built into one little add-on. Now that would have been a pretty simple thing to copy from one file and drag over, but when you take into account things like the scripts, possible custom functions, and remembering to do them in the right order, it becomes a little more difficult. So let's look at one that's a little more complicated. We added FMlog, which is the example I gave you from AppWorks. You can see it added one single table. But it added a number of scripts. So there's a lot going on with that. Let's see what else it added. I'm going to add a little divider line there so that we can separate what's added. You can see it added 3 layouts. We're going to open the splash layout and see what they tell us. So this add-on requires a little bit of configuration, but it comes with all the instructions. They get added directly to the file on the layouts that have been added. So we're going to add one more. This is virtual sort. And as I was starting to say earlier when I thought this was the one I was selecting, some of you are familiar with virtual sort, the virtual sort technique. It again is all FileMaker native, but it is comprised of value lists, some relationships, a lot of scripting, etc. So this add-on basically installs the entire demo for the virtual sort technique directly into the file. You can then rip out what you need to keep and what you want to take away. So these example layouts, you can take those buttons that it gave you and just adjust them to use the fields you want to use. But all the scripting is there. So we'll let it show you some sort and unsort. And then let's take a look at what it actually added to the file. So in this case, it brought in a number of tables because it included the demo. So it brought in those tables with the records that it was going to sort. It brought in multiple layouts to show the multiple different ways it can be used. It added a number of virtual sort specific custom functions. They're all there and ready to go. It also brought in some value lists, and you can see the FMlog reference up there on the FMlog types is something that would be in those configuration constructions for the log. Now we're going to take a look at what happens when we go in the reverse, go back to our original layout, go into layout mode, and we just right-click on each of these and uninstall them. And if you look in the upper left, you see we start with 12 layouts. Now we're down to 9. Uninstall that one, and that'll take us down to 7. Uninstall virtual sort. That brings us down to just our original layout. And let's see now how our file looks. Look at our schema. We're down to our original table. We have no scripts. Only our original layout, no custom functions, and no value lists. So when you uninstall an add-on, it takes everything with it that was associated with that. So there are some gotchas there, and we'll talk about those more next week when we discuss in our public brain trust creating and deploying add-ons. And switch back here. Switch to separate, and that should put us back in the right place for our next and final section.
Yeah. How can we make use of them? Aside from, Mr. Potato Head competitions. Who can build the biggest file the fastest?
Right. Well, I tell you, I'm real excited because I see a lot of opportunity here, and not just for the marketplace. I see a lot of internal opportunity. I'm very interested in ideas that other developers have, but as developers, I see this as a tool. So the little example I gave of the nav button bars, that was just one example of something that I use and reuse. So any piece of code that involves more than one object, it's not just a custom function, it's not just a button bar, it's a button bar and a script and some custom functions, and they go together and they work together. And if I'm going to reuse that code, I'd like to be able to just add it on. I want my potato to wear this hat. And it's always going to be there and available, and I don't have to rebuild it. So I'm interested in reuse options like that, and obviously there are going to be some commercial opportunities, but as a developer, I'm really interested in what I can do to make my life easier, and my work easier, and my coworkers' experiences easier as well. So I'm real excited to hear what other people have to say.
Yeah, I think even the concept of a custom function, just a custom function, right? Some custom functions are super simple. They're described in one line of text at the top of the function. Fine, done. But there's a lot that aren't, right? That, you can stare at that thing for 10 minutes trying to figure out how it's recursing or, what it's calling and so forth. So the notion of being able to provide a little tiny package that maybe has just a little demo table with it, stuff that is easy to kind of, throw this away once you've got it in there.
Right.
And you understand how it works. But to be able to drop that right into your system, tie it in, compare it to the sample. Okay, it's working in the sample, it's still not working over here, what am I doing wrong? And you can switch back and forth. That's kind of a new modality.
Yeah.
And I think in combination with the marketplace, I hope that really kind of centralizes our interaction on some things like that. Historically, we go to this site or that site, or you just Google, a function.
Right.
And I think I personally, I've been fairly reticent to put stuff out there, stuff that I build personally, stuff that we build, in part because it just feels so fractured. It's doesn't feel necessarily fruitful. So right. I'm excited about maybe the additional clarity we can add to why something's out there. Paul, do we have anybody saying, show us this?
Yes, we do, Steve. We've got a great crowd in the chat, and we've got 2 votes for the JavaScript calendar, also 2 votes for the JavaScript Kanban add-on, and also votes for the phone numbers and emails add-ons.
All right, so
calendar was
Robert already showed phone numbers and emails, and I think we can maybe go back to, oh yeah, that's right. Just give us a second here as we get this into old eye mode again. There we go. Or even like 30-year-old eye mode.
If you want to just start with a blank file, I can get you started there and,
Cool, thank you.
all right.
So the first, Paul, the first was the calendar?
Yes.
Calendar. Actually, when I saw this one in ETS, I was really excited. I was honestly excited. Yep. It was pretty cool.
So I will demonstrate these, but what I'm not going to do is take the time to actually hook this up to existing solutions and integrate it into something existing, which would be the additional step.
Yeah, but I think if we can, and I'm speaking literally for myself as well here, if we can kind of look at like what might that look like, right? Like where would those integration points be potentially?
Right.
Right. and the
That's kind of an interesting
Taking a closer look
question.
at the configuration,
Okay,
right?
so
Yeah.
so back up a second. I'm just going to kind of narrate what I think we just saw because it was too fast. It was like magic. So you created a blank file.
Correct.
You went to layout mode. You drug the add-on out and went back to browse mode. Was that literally the steps you followed?
Yes, that was it.
Hey, Robert, use the handheld. Something's going wrong with your mic.
Okay.
So, and I'll just speak up here. So what are we actually looking at right now? What is on screen? It's a web portal, right?
It is a web portal.
Okay.
It's grouped. There's a few FileMaker buttons here to navigate the calendar.
So those buttons are making calls into the portal. Can we look at one? Yeah,
Sure.
like today. Look at today. Just what does that do?
So there's the parameter. Passing in the parameter direction is today. And the add-ons UUID.
Is that old eyes again? What was it? Get it's set. So it's setting JSON.
Correct.
Got it.
That is the parameter it's passing in to FC calendar navigation button.
All right, Robert, I think we got you back.
It's added quite a few scripts.
Calendar navigation.
Zoom in on that thing, and let's kind of scroll through.
You're off. You are off.
Yeah, not on.
Oh, you want to be on.
There we go.
Robert, in the comments, William Porter is asking if this is sample data. He says the problem is configuring the add-on so that it's linked to the data in his own solution.
That's correct.
Right.
That is correct.
Do we have any guidance or suggestions for that?
Well, the configurators that come with these spell out what's needed. And everything that you need to integrate it is in here, and it is already hooked up to the sample data. You basically just need to, if you don't already have these fields in your calendar table, you need to add those fields to your calendar table and then point the configurator there.
Repoint them.
So the add-on is making assumptions about what's there in your file, and you have to meet those assumptions to.
Actually, a lot of these JavaScript make no assumptions at all, and they provide the sample data and hook themselves up to that sample data so that they are already fully functional when you drop them out, but not functional with your own solution.
So looking at it, Robert, click on that top menu. So it's asking us to pick which layout is it? Is
Correct.
it layout picker?
Yes, it's layout.
So which layout are our events? So ostensibly, we would have a table of events. And then once we pick that, it's asking us what's our primary key, and then some other logical fields for those events, like the title, start date, start time, end date, end time. So okay, that makes decent sense. And these are the required fields.
Correct.
And then in optional fields, what do we have? An all day, okay, so you probably a Boolean for all day. Oh, whether it's editable or not.
Uh-huh.
Right, and a style, okay, a calendar style. All right, interesting. Let's look at the other two. Filter settings does what for us? A query field, okay.
So I'm honestly not completely sure what these do yet. I haven't delved into it that deep, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe that this is something that can help you keep a single set of events separated into different contexts. So if your system only has one table of events and you have events in there that pertain to different areas of your system, I believe this is what would be used to
So you're thinking that this might,
separate
that this
those.
might be almost like a portal filter?
Yes, I believe
I
so.
think. Okay.
Robert, we're being asked if the JavaScript can be revealed. Is it possible to look at the JavaScript?
Yes, actually, to some degree. So we can look at the HTML anyway, and there's a lot of it. So in one sense, yes, okay, we can look at it. In another sense, there's an awful lot to look at. So the JavaScript is going to be in here in the HTML.
Okay. So for the person with the tools and talents to go through that.
Right.
Exactly.
And there are other things that you can configure that we'll be talking about in next week's Brain Trust.
You know, we were saying yesterday that config store, that ends up acting as a single record, single table that multiple JavaScript add-ons use, right? Is that what we're thinking, how it works?
Multiple copies of this JavaScript add-on.
Oh, of the same
Of the calendar,
So
right.
if I put a calendar maybe for table A, but a different calendar for table B, right? I have
Correct.
them hooked up to two separate different event tables.
Correct.
Table A and table B, or calendar A, calendar B, going to be in the same config store but under different UUIDs, and then it's going to store the settings by the UUID.
Correct.
For the instances of the add-on. All right. Yeah, I'm getting it. One other thing. What happens if we click on Lunch With? Who is Lunch With? What does that do for us? Hey, check that out. So this must be leveraging, because this is clearly outside the bounds of the actual web viewer. So this has got to be a FileMaker object. So this
Correct.
must be leveraging the whole JavaScript call that lets us call back to a FileMaker script.
Correct.
And then opening that window.
Absolutely.
Very cool. All right, anything else on the calendar before we try another one, Paul?
No, there's no other questions. There's some interesting conversation going on.
Yeah, good. Keep it going. All right, so what was the next add-on?
The
people
second
wanted
one
to
was
see?
the Kanban.
Kanban. And that one's kind of interesting, right? Because it facilitates something that is difficult to accomplish with FileMaker normally, and that is drag and drop. Rearranging, moving, click drag. There's been a variety of ways that people have kind of hacked it in the past to do those kinds of things. But this just lets us do it native style.
Yeah, pretty much. I've played with this one a little bit. It's relatively easy to add columns just by modifying the value list. There's a value list that defines what those columns are.
I'm really pleased to see that this is a DIY project. That is after my own heart. We need to get going on those cabinet installs, though. What can we do with that? Let's get that in progress.
Install the cabinets? All right.
Yeah. So you can change them that way, but can you drag them column to column?
You sure can.
Sure can. Isn't that cool? And you can reorder them as well, right?
Uh-huh. You can.
Sweet, we're done. Man, that was fast.
All right, so what kind of configuration options do we have with this? Because what if I need more than 3 columns?
No, sorry.
No,
Maybe lane setup?
lane setup, yeah.
Actually, the columns, let's see. Lane's value list, right there, they're defined by that value list.
Okay.
So let's see if we can change that, right? So if you go in,
I did have a little trouble getting it to refresh.
uh-huh. Yeah, and that's something we're playing with, is the whole, it's a web viewer, so how do you get it to refresh? So it shows up there.
I usually found that entering preview mode and then back will, oh, but maybe we don't have anything that's in that. If
I
you-
did, I put something in there.
No, but we don't have anything there. If you edit one to change its status to that new thing,
I
will
did
that
that.
show up?
I did that.
Oh, I
Yes,
didn't see
did.
it, sorry.
I'll take
right.
this one here.
So that'll take a little bit of playing to,
Well, you can create a 4th column, you just can't see it, Heather.
oh, now I get it.
It's a mystery column.
Oh, well, sometimes that's what you want.
Let's see if I just change a setting in the configurator. And it still didn't draw it. But I did eventually get it to show up.
Yeah,
And I'm
okay.
not sure what it was that I did, but it will eventually show up.
So we're still learning the ropes here too.
A little
for
bit,
sure.
little bit. But this is pretty neat.
And then, so these JavaScript ones, all as a pattern, bring with them a web viewer with, at least a FileMaker button. There's that, tool button on the top of this one. The other one had a series of buttons.
Correct.
Certainly some scripts, a config object, tables, etc. So I guess the part that makes it a JavaScript add-on is just kind of the artificial constraint that there's JavaScript involved in a web viewer.
Correct.
It's really sort of a web viewer add-on.
Exactly.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, as much as
Exactly.
anything.
What was the next one that got,
It was
What
was
was
the email and phone number, right? So it's back to kind of the schema one. So let's go back and look at those schema add-ons. Because I think for us as an organization, though some of what we'll want to do will be JavaScript, a lot of it's going to be in this category. It's going to be schema components.
right, like for adding a module?
Yeah.
All right, so the email. I
These
wanna-
need FileMaker 19 to run after they're installed, right?
Some of them. So like I don't think any of the schema add-ons do. Because they're adding in FileMaker schema. But I think the JavaScript add-ons need 19 if they're using the JavaScript call from the web viewer that lets you launch a script. That's not going to work outside of 19. The JavaScript might render, but the call isn't going to activate. So you'd certainly want to put a test in your file to say if you're not on 19, maybe don't show them that layout or something.
Right. So William Porter asked the question about, first Mike Wallace asked the question if it was going into layout mode and back would work. And I found that one that was even slower to redraw and refresh was the seed code DayBack Calendar. And I played with that some. And at first I thought, oh, my layouts were blank, right? Because I'd go to them and look at, there'd be nothing there. I'd go to layout mode, I'd see, yep, there's a web viewer there. And then I would pop back into browse mode and I'd wait a few seconds. And sometimes I'd drag my window a little bit bigger and then boom, it would show up. So they were there, but they were a little slower to render. And for those, I did go into layout mode to try it, see if that would work. But I found the one that worked quicker was going to preview mode and back and resizing my screen. Those were the things that worked to make them draw. And I think the issue there is partly that the DayBack Calendar it's a free download, but it's not a free forever use. It's not a giveaway product. So they have some licensing ties in there about what you can do, and there's certain buttons you'll click and it'll take you to the page that says here's the price and register now.
Right.
Which of course as a product, that's a great thing that we could put into an add-on because we're tying to a web page or something.
It gives you a way to do that kind of freemium
Yeah,
try before you buy thing.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting to see how people play with that. It's kind of for so long, plugins were really the only kind of add-on tool that people tried to monetize that way. And I think this is maybe a new vector. So Robert did get, or is it, a column to show up. So
Awesome.
maybe it was showing up right away, right? You just made it wider.
I made it wider.
And I
That's what
think
it was.
that's a great point, is that FileMaker has set up, or the partner who built the add-on for FileMaker has set up the Kanban board to have a specific width, right? They looked at it and they said, hey, these columns are going to have this width, which means if our web viewer isn't wide enough and we add additional columns, they're off on the right? So I think that's something we need to think about just conceptually when we're building add-ons, is all the normal gotchas you'd have with web code and a web portal. I mean, you still have those there, right? It's cool that it works, but it doesn't make your stuff automatically resize.
So
Right.
I want to mention here, Rick's asking about if it's backwards compatible in 17 or 18, and that has to do with what features are in there. Absolutely, add-ons are backwards compatible to 17 and 18 if the features in that add-on are 17 and 18 compatible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so like the email thing that you drug out.
Correct.
There's really nothing in there, unless they were doing something esoteric like a while loop or something. There's
Correct,
nothing
exactly.
in there that wouldn't work in a previous version.
That's
You just
correct.
can't
Right.
do it in a previous version.
Correct.
Right, and the examples that I used in my little demo, the virtual sort, the navigation bar, those are all FileMaker native to begin with. They're not using the JavaScript, so those would even work back in versions we don't support anymore.
That's right.
In that case, it's all about the package, the move all this functionality together so we don't leave something out.
And let me remind us all that 17 is end of life and not supported any longer. So we should all be on 18 or 19. I'm talking to my team here, by the way.
We recently upgraded my husband from 14.
14.
Yeah. He was very content, but
Cool.
he doesn't know how to create buttons yet.
All right, so Robert, let's go look at those schema ones again. The
Okay.
email. I'd like to see behind the scenes on that a little bit as well.
Steve, we have another question about the JavaScript. Rick Colcock asked, he says, do the Java goodies need internet access to get supporting files like CSS?
If that's how they were designed to work in the first place, yes, but they can be designed to be self-contained.
And I think all of I haven't read like an official Claras thou shalt do it this way type document yet. But I think all of the ones that are core Claras first party on the marketplace are completely self-contained. No internet required. You drag it on there, it works.
So they come with the app when it's installed.
It's got all the CSS and everything is all localized.
Okay, so this was the people add-on that I also added on the email add-on too.
Right, so can we go look at the schema just for a second, just to get context? So the people add-on starts with a people table, right? Just
Correct.
one table.
And the people add-on can be dragged onto a screen if you have something to attach the people to, such as a company or...
Right. And I really, that's a cool concept, right? Maybe a customer starts with an inventory list or an invoice list or
Right.
something else, right? And they haven't gone to the effort of normalizing out their customers, right? The ability to drag in, and maybe we wouldn't use FileMaker's, the default FileMaker people object, but create our own people, address, whatever package, right? The ability to drag it in and then just go connect, 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 connect. That's pretty cool.
It is.
Right, so for example, FileMaker by default has provided us with a separate phone numbers table or add-on and a separate email add-on, but we tend to use a comms table
Yeah.
where we can have both
Same table,
emails
right.
and
Yeah.
phone numbers, et cetera, of all different types, because you just never know what
Website.
communication modes or methods you're going to have.
But I think part of, so do this, cancel out of here and uninstall the email add-on. Because this was something that I thought was pretty cool, but I didn't catch it right away. So you uninstall it, it's gonna blow everything away with a nice warning saying you're about to lose all your data. So our people, but these add-ons are very bad at graph management, though, I gotta say. So our people table is now naked again. There's nothing connected to it. So now if you commit this schema change and go back and add one of those add-ons again, like let's do a different one, let's do the addresses, it's gonna attach it to the people, right?
When you add it to your file, it adds all of the objects to the file. But when you drag it onto the layout is when it actually attaches it to the table occurrence.
Oh, okay.
So can you,
So if I-
can you
So the
undo that?
act of
Undo that.
dragging it to
Go
the
to
layout.
Yeah, so if you go to the graph now, we should see the table added.
Well, I already
Oh,
drug
Because
it.
you already
so
dragged it, right,
so
right,
let's
but
do
it-
this
yeah.
again. I'll do this again. We'll uninstall it.
So it knows, it's looking at the
Right.
DDR type information. It knows what the primary key is.
Correct.
And it's kind of automatically hooking it up that way.
Okay,
That's
so
all.
before you drag it on, right,
Yep,
there we
there
go,
it is.
addresses and people, they're separate. And it's made the connection for us.
Yeah, so in theory, let's actually do this real quick. Make a company table. Let's just 3 fields. Or even 1 field, because it's going to give us primary key and, stuff by default. So just
Right.
add name.
Right.
Yeah. So now, let's go to that company table layout and drag on addresses here. And I'm guessing what it's going to do is it's going to give us another occurrence of addresses and attach it there. Is that right?
Well, that's
Interesting.
Yeah.
that's still
Okay.
something that has to be worked out.
Yeah, so there we go. Yeah, so it's going to treat it as the same object, kind of the, normalizing assumptions. It's one address object, but 2 different tables. Of course,
Right.
this would bear out the importance of using a UUID primary key, right? Because as long as I'm using a UUID primary key, we can get away with doing this without a problem. Because our
Right.
address foreign key isn't going to get overwritten. If we're just using ascending serial numbers like we have in the past,
Right. That's right.
we'd have unexpected results.
Right. We'll
Right,
get
because
some
we would
key
typically use a different
contamination.
foreign key for people versus
Yeah.
orcs, right?
Yeah, interesting.
Mike Wallace said spider graph automator. I love it.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, if you recall from my demo, the virtual list add-on, or the virtual sort add-on, all of those were at the bottom of the graph. So where they end up on your graph depends entirely on where they were on the graph of the file that created the add-on in the first place. And I specifically moved everything lower so that I wouldn't end up with the overlapping table occurrences on the graph when I installed the add-on.
Okay.
So, but if you've got multiple different developers building add-ons, putting them out there in the marketplace, you have no way of knowing where they're going to end up.
Yeah. So it looks like Claras must have put all of their first-party add-ons top left.
Upper left.
Yep.
Yep.
So they just kind of slam right on top
And
of it.
wide open.
But
Yeah.
but if we were, for instance, creating a people, places, and things add-on,
Mm-hmm.
right? That would be kind of our default drag and drop in. We could have that kind of down and bounded by a note, and
Exactly.
You know, and it might overlap something, but it should
Right.
be pretty easy to find it and move it.
Right, and the notes will come in with them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're surrounded by this stuff belongs to this. But of course, if that was in the upper left, that is going to be overlapping
Right.
as well, so. But again, that's something we'll cover in more detail next week.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. Because we're also going to cover how to make one, right? You've made one, Robert's made one. I guess we've made a few.
We've made a few.
so
A few
far.
now.
Yes, and we've learned some gotchas that are interesting and fun and much better to like have someone show you what to look out for. And so, yes, we're real eager to share what we've learned in actually creating add-ons. And of course, the add-ons we've created are based on things that we'd like to have as add-ons. But we're open to ideas. If anyone wants to throw something out there, give us an example of something you'd like to see. Maybe we'll see it next week.
Yeah,
All
totally.
right.
So a reminder, 11 o'clock is our normal start time for our public brain trust. If you jump in at 11:15, that's cool, but we'll be 15 minutes into it. Probably miss the demo at the beginning where we'll actually show you how to do it. These are recorded and will be available for replay on our channel after the fact. If if you're not available at that time but are interested, of course, please feel free to come back and play it at any point. Paul, anything else that, we're at an hour here. It's been fun. Anything else that the community is calling for before we close it up?
We have multiple expressions of thanks. William Porter asks, is it hard to create a layout add-on? Which sounds to me like the perfect question to answer next week. But
The short answer is no.
Tune in next week.
That's exciting. All
It's
right.
not hard to do. There are a few things you need to include, a few naming conventions to keep in mind, and for a basic, simple thing like that, little nav bar that I did, it took just a couple minutes,
Outstanding.
start to finish. Very, very simple.
Got a lot of excited people in the chat. They're looking forward to doing more with this.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, thanks everybody for your time. It's been great to have you here. Everybody stay safe. Hope you're all well, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Au revoir.